2 of Babylon.
Yes. I was about to say we're back for Scenes from a Marriage, Part 2. Just because of the whole bed thing, I mentioned that in the first episode, the first part of this episode. So we took a break, and now we're back. It was kind of a long break.
Yeah, it was almost a week long.
Yeah.
Well, just our schedules don't always pair up, despite the fact that we're married and we live together, obviously.
Yeah.
But my schedule has been pretty crazy, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Scenes from a Marriage. Sure. So we continue with Babylon, the Damien Chazelle film. So where we left off was the end of them on the set. So they're both on the set for the first time, really. So
yeah.
Nellie finishes her scene where she's crying at the bar, and Manny finishes that scene that he helped go for. And Brad Pitt kisses the queen, and the butterfly lands on his shoulder. And it's a beautiful moment.
Oh.
And everybody, the crew, claps and stuff. So that's where he left off.
Yes.
And so Nellie says, because the director asks her, "How do you keep crying on cue like that?" And she's like, "I just think of home." And then we'll pause and then cut to champagne popping, and it's a studio party. I guess it's kind of a rap party. The guy Don Wallach, played by Jeff Garlin. He's
yeah, I thought that was weird casting, but in a way it does make sense.
Yeah, because I guess they just wanted someone who looks kind of Weinstein-ish. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that just gives me the
heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. Like, I was about to say they're heebie-jeebies, or it's just pure cringe.
Or the CBGBs.
No, that's way too cool. Way too cool. I would not even put those together.
Yeah. So he did a good job. They were trying to creep out the audience into thinking that it was Harvey Weinstein in a movie. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, even though I feel that Jeff Garlin tends to be in sillier content than that, so it is still somewhat unexpected. Yeah. But I guess, it makes sense in a way.
Well, a lot of comedians have their turn at drama. You've seen it. John Candy did it, and JFK, and comedians eventually do that one or two drama roles in their careers.
Yeah, but most people don't see it that way, or at least I don't think they notice it, do they?
Like the audience, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the ones who pay attention will notice.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the studio head, and he's very excited. And he said, "Here's Tom."
Yes. So if you see it on screen, yes. So he's okay. I think I'm going to start censoring certain things. So what are you doing?
Tom, you can sit in the middle.
What are you doing, buddy?
But no, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this
Cats
might be
movies.
Okay, this might be not suitable for work. And actually he just walked away, so we're good to continue.
Yeah, we'll see if he comes back. So Don Wallach says he tells someone at the party, "We're very excited about Nellie Leroy. She's our new star." And they're like, "Okay, which one is she?" And then we see her in the background, like this depth of field shot, and she's like jacking off this ice sculpture unicorn thing. And he says, he's like, "Oh, she's the one making love to the ice sculpture." But yeah, this movie moves hella fast. This is the quickest 3 hours you'll ever spend.
Yeah, so that's what I don't understand. I went on to Reddit to read that a lot of people were complaining about the length of this film. Which to me, I didn't even. It's not even a slow movie. At least not
at all. It moves hella fast. Like I said, it's the quickest 3 hours you'll ever spend, I think, in a theater anyway. So Manny, he becomes like Jack's assistant. He basically, becomes his assistant. He says he likes him. Jack tells Manny to get flowers for this opera chick. even though she doesn't speak any English, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He wants to spit some game to her. I guess Olga Pudi is her name. And so that's what's going on in Manny's world. And then we cut to this premiere that they're going to have for Nellie's film, the film that she did at the bar where she's crying, and she's outside the theater, and they won't even let her in. Like, they won't even let her in to see her own movie. So she basically has to lie just to get into the movie, and so she pays off some guy to be like, "Oh, Nellie Leroy, like, can I have your autograph or whatever?" And then when the ticket attendant lets her in, she pays off the guy or whatever. Says that. So she's in the theater, and it's like, I like how it's all red. Like, you can feel the heat.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In the theater. And like, she's there and she's kind of nervous watching the movie, and like, the crowd likes the movie. She can feel it. She can hear them laughing and stuff, and she starts smiling, like Nellie's happy, and it's kind of funny. Like, it's similar to the scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where she plays Sharon Tate, and she goes to one of her movies. She sees herself in the movie as Sharon Tate, and it's kind of interesting that she's done this sort of thing a couple times.
Maybe Damien Chazelle was very conscious of that. He probably did take it from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, he might have been.
Yeah.
I mean, it just fit the scene. So Nellie's dad is played by Eric Roberts, and he's kind of a sleazy dude. Like, he's kind of trying to make a name for himself. He's trying to, like, take advantage of her fame any chance he gets.
Jeez.
Nepo
dad, I guess.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. He's riding her coattails,
Yeah.
And it's funny, they show that Nellie and Constance Moore, played by Samara Weaving, they become like a team, kind of, like, their buddy films are like taking over the world or whatever, and then they show the photo of Constance and her, like, snotty face. It's just funny. So, and they become a team, even though Constance hates Nellie. She on the set, she's like yelling at the director, and she says she's icing her nipples.
Whatever. That is ridiculous. When I first heard it, I'm like, what is that supposed to mean?
yeah. She's like, she's icing her nipples. Like, she's trying to take my screen time or whatever. And she's like, what the hell do you mean? She's like, what do you mean ice my nipples? This is all natural. She's like, you're just complaining because yours look like fucking latkes.
Were latkes even popular at the time?
Yeah,
Speaking of... Okay.
That's been a Jewish thing for a long time.
But were there already a lot of Jews at the time?
Yeah, there were a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then Nellie is like, kind of pulling pranks on Constance, and she puts like a wood dildo in her trailer. And she's like, she put this in my trailer. And Nellie's like, I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Yeah, I still find that really weird. I mean, amongst other things, but it's like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, we already know she's pretty wild, but still.
Yeah. But yeah, like, Constance is getting pissed off because she's the producer and it's her company. So that kind of gives Nellie a light bulb moment. And then we see that Jack marries that Olga chick who doesn't speak any English, and he's happy. And then
weird.
So Nellie decides to get nose surgery overnight. She calls the doctor and says, oh, remember that surgery I was talking about having? And she gets that overnight. She shows up to set all bandaged and stuff. And they're like, how long is that going to take to heal or whatever? They're saying, oh, we can't shoot. Like, we're going to have to put the production on hold. And then we see Constance is like sad now because she'll be losing money from that. So, and then it kind of goes by really fast. Like, we see the newspaper and it says that Constance Moore's company goes bankrupt or whatever. And so Nellie did that on purpose, Yeah. And, and it kind of shows Nellie's rise, in that whole montage. And then I like this shot of Nellie looking at the camera. Is it Nellie or is it Margot? like she's looking at the.
You don't know whether it's the character or the actress.
Yeah, because you can tell they edited it in. Like it was like a screen test or something. Like it was like random footage that they shot of her looking at the camera. Do you remember this scene? There's like a scene where it's during this thing and she's wearing like the red dress or something like that. Mm-hmm. And she's looking at the camera and she's like playing with her hair or whatever. Yeah, right? It doesn't look like it's acting. No, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it just doesn't look like it's from the era either.
Yeah. It looks like Margot. And they kind of, but I like it. I think it's cool because it makes it look like a music video or something. You know, it's a cool insert.
Yeah. And by the way, if you suddenly see me zoom in somehow to the camera, like if you see me like move towards the camera, it's because I'm trying to distract Tom.
Because of Tom Hanks. That's why.
Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of movies and actors, Tom Hanks.
Yeah, that's our cat's name.
Yeah,
and he was already named that way. Right?
Yes, he was.
We didn't name him that. So.
And this was and he's already gone through a couple humans, so
yeah.
So he was already named Tom Hanks at the time.
Right, exactly. So it was meant to be.
Yes.
So yeah, I like that shot a lot. I think it's pretty cool, and that almost made it like it kind of looks like a music video, which made me think like Tame Impala should do a music video with Margot Robbie. That would be like the perfect combination, don't you think?
Well, you already know how I really feel about her, so...
Well, you don't love her, right?
I mean, I just think that they really need to vary it up when it comes to movies, and she's casted a lot.
Yeah, you feel like she's in every damn movie. Right?
Pretty much.
So yeah, so then we see Nellie, she's become like Hollywood's it girl, basically.
Yeah.
Night. And then we see Jack in the bathroom, and some guy comes in, some industry guy comes in and tells him about this sound movie that's going to come out soon.
Pardon me?
Okay. This sound movie that's going to come out, it's going to change the game forever, called The Jazz Singer. And Jack asks him, like, are you sure, do you think the audience wants that sound in their movies? And since they're in the bathroom, they hear like someone taking a shit. They're like, you can hear this diarrhea going off right when he says that.
I don't get all the fecal matter that goes into the movie. I mean, first the elephant and then that.
Well, I guess that's part of why people don't like it, you know.
But I guess it shows you that it's human nature.
Yeah, and elephant nature. So yeah, we hear that diarrhea in the background.
Or anything involving living things. Or most living things.
Yeah. Yeah, we hear the diarrhea going off. Because Jack's like, are you sure the audience wants that sound in their movies? And then you hear people going off. And then the guy's like, yeah, why not? It's a little heavy-handed, but it is funny. And then Jack's at home telling Manny and others about sound film and how that's gonna like change the game and revolutionize things. And then Olga, his new wife, is pissed off and she's throwing shit and screaming in her language.
Well, yeah, I guess you would think that, or at least he would think that things would be better this marriage, this time around with this other marriage. But no, not really.
Yeah, no, not at all. And then we see Manny go to New York to the premiere of Jazz Singer. I guess he's kind of like on assignment. Like Jack tells him, like, okay, go to the premiere of this, do your research and let us know what's going on. And then he sees Nellie in New York. He bumps into her, and they ride together in a taxi to escape the crowd clamoring for her.
Yes, this scene was very interesting, actually.
Yeah, and then that theme kicks in, the Manny and Nellie theme.
Yeah.
Which is very reminiscent of the City of Stars
yes.
theme. And something I've said before is that I think it's extra hard for Chazelle, in a way, to be a director because he knows music so well. I think it makes it even harder for him. Because
yeah, I can definitely see that as more of a challenge.
Yeah, because it gives you too much to think about, in a way. It gives him another level that he needs to direct a film on, because most directors, they're not musicians, so they don't know it so well. Or it's like they let the music department handle that kind of, you know what I'm saying? They might know what songs they want, like what pop songs they want to put in certain scenes, and that's about it, you know what I'm saying? And they know visually what they want and, storyline if they write it themselves too. But, and not just that, he has to think about it on the musical level too. Of course. Like it's hard to separate his musical mind from, his visual mind, his writing mind, you know what I'm saying? I think it would be hard for him to separate that because he'll be, the guy Hurwitz, the composer.
Justin Hurwitz.
Yeah, Justin Hurwitz. He'll compose something and he'll watch it and he'll be like, wait, because he knows music so well, he'll be like, wait, this note, I don't know if this note should go right here on this part. Maybe change this note. Like, most directors not knowing music that well wouldn't even think about that. They'd just be like, okay, sounds good, okay, and then or be like, doesn't sound good, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But he has to kind of micromanage the music as well. You know what I'm saying? Which I think makes it even harder for him because it's like hard for him to escape that part of his brain. But he manages to do music really well.
Yeah.
In all his films.
It's true.
So yeah, and so Manny tells Nellie that he's working with Jack Conrad, Brad Pitt's character, and she freaks out. She's like, "Oh, Jack Conrad, I would so fuck him." That's what she says. And then Manny's like, "Okay." Like, what about me?
Yeah, well, I thought you both had something going on. Why are you looking at? Why? Well,
they never got together.
Oh, no, at least not officially. I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we knew that Manny liked her because he told her that he was falling in love with her, right?
Well, yeah, he did say earlier in the movie. Like, I think, I think I love you. Even though, like I said, they translated it wrong in the subtitles.
Yeah, but yeah, I think she never looked at him that way in a way. You know what I'm saying? Not till later, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe she never did. I don't know. Because
I think later on she did, but she had already messed up really bad.
Her life too much. Yeah. Just couldn't go anywhere. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so and they kind of she tells him that her dad is her manager, but he can't count and he can't spell, but and I like how her rationale. She's like, he's my dad. What else is he gonna do? Like she's just kind of like, that's his job. It's like, it's like Hispanic people with when they have kids. It's like, oh, like grandma is the nanny, of course. You know what I mean? Like,
it's kind of like they always use the one who's the most undereducated, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
It's really sad, actually.
Yeah, but it just happens like default, So as they're in the cabin, they stop by some random asylum or whatever. Like, it's kind of vague. Like, you don't realize where they are at first, but then we can see, it's like some asylum.
Yeah.
And I guess Nellie is there to visit her mother. We don't really know who that lady is at first, but we kind of put two and two together. And I guess her mother went crazy and she doesn't want to talk. So they bring her out and she just kind of stands there. And Nellie and Manny kind of look at her and they kind of don't know what to do. So they're just like, okay, bye, So then they just leave and go in the car. And I think it affects her, but she doesn't want to say it. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't know how to put that into words, seeing her mom in that state, And as they leave in the cab, she mentions something interesting. She mentions how she hates people who put toppings on ice cream. She's like, I hate how people put topping on ice cream. Just fucks up a good thing.
Well, she specifically said sprinkles, didn't she?
Yeah, sprinkles, yeah. She's like, I hate when people put sprinkles on ice cream. Just fucks up a good thing.
I don't... when I first heard that, I was like, I don't know what's wrong with that. I love sprinkles on my ice cream.
I know you do.
I love sprinkles on anything, like on cakes, on cookies. I mean, I don't know. That's just me. Wow, that's just... that thing. She's just the antithesis of me.
You got triggered by that.
I kind of. But I mean, that's part of what makes the movie even more interesting.
So isn't it funny that why would she mention that right there?
You know what I mean? It was very random.
Yeah,
because I mean, it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has some sort of connection to her mother and stuff like that. Like maybe her mom liked to do that or something, and that's why she brought it up or whatever.
And it just to
and
show
she never liked that.
Just to show their strained relationship in a way.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah. You know, like I kind of agree with her a little bit. I'm more of a basic kind of guy. Like
I know you really are.
I don't need sprinkles on it. You know what I'm saying? I don't need sprinkles on ice cream or whatever. You know, if it's there, I'll eat it, but it has to be good. You know what I mean? Like it has to make it shine. Has to make it sing even more with it. You know what I'm saying?
Good point.
So I thought that was very interesting. Like Chazelle to throw that in. And she said that she always disappointed people her whole life, and she kind of vents to Manny in the car, and she asks if he likes ice cream, and he says, of course. And he mentions how his family lives in LA, and she thought they were in Mexico, but then he says he crossed the border when he was 12, and that's interesting too, because he says, oh, my family is there, you know, they're in LA. He's like, I can see them in 30 minutes if I want to. He's like, but I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, isn't that interesting how he brings that up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting, but I think he also brings that up. I don't know, like that. I feel like that got incorporated into the movie because I'm pretty sure that a lot of people relate to that. Like, they still have their family and somewhere nearby, but they don't really see them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that is why he threw that in. I think a lot of people can relate to that. People who live near their family, but they don't necessarily see them often or at all. You know. True. So they part ways. She kind of lets him out, and he goes to the theater where they're playing Jazz Singer, and he sits down like pretty late into the movie. Like he goes in and like I can tell that he really likes Nellie, so he's thinking more about her. You know, like he's like thinking about he had such a nice time hanging out with her in the car and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden he sees that the movie is getting like a standing ovation or whatever. And he's like, what the fuck or whatever. And we see a little bit of the movie play on the screen or whatever. And he's like, oh my god, like he's looking at the reaction. He's like, oh shit. And so he runs out. He runs out of the theater to the nearest payphone, and he calls Jack, and he tells him, Jack, like, this is going to change everything. And it fades out or whatever. And I guess that's kind of the end of the first act. You know what I mean? You could say, that Nellie part where she's crying, when they finish that scene, I thought that was kind of the end of the first act, but I guess this is really kind of the end of the first act. Because that really closes that cycle. This is like the beginning of the end, as far as like sound film coming in, you know what I'm saying? Sure. This is the first sound film, and it's going to change everything, and a lot of these people's lives are going to change, because of this. And, so it is like the end of the first act, which is longer than most first acts because it's a longer movie, you know what I'm saying? Most first acts are like 30 minutes, you know what I mean? But this one is like an hour, basically, Wow. So next we see a movie set. We kind of fade up from black, and we see this movie set in a studio now, and it's 1928. And so they're trying to shoot Nellie's first film with sound. Yeah. And it's a very complicated process, to say the least. Oh. We see her walking into a dorm room, and she's like, well, hello, college. Like, that's her line. But it's hot on set because of the lights and stuff, and there needs to be silence, on set because of the audio now. And, like, something keeps fucking up. Every time they shoot the scene, something just fucks up. And this is a very frustrating scene. almost as frustrating as the entirety of the movie Mother by Darren Aronofsky. It was very frustrating.
Pardon? Sorry everyone. I'm just trying to distract Tom Hanks because he keeps over grooming, which he shouldn't be doing, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the process, I may do some goof up.
Yeah. Thanks for letting us know. Yeah, and so they need to do this scene like 50 million times. Do you like this scene?
Kind of a weird scene. Kind of uncomfortable, actually.
Really?
But I mean, for me, to some degree.
Yeah, like they keep shooting this, and you can even see like the sweat on her feet, like when she walks in, trying to hit her mark. Like you can see like the glistening of her feet there, so you can tell how hot it is. And her hair keeps getting more jacked up and jacked up as the scene goes on. You know, as the takes keep going on, and the cinematographer wants to come out because he says it's fucking hot, but they're like, stay in the damn box. Like he has to stay in this box while they shoot. And great casting on the guy who has the clacker. Like, he's the guy who does take 17. Like, his lisp is funny. It's funny that they casted that guy.
Well, I think that's
why they did that.
It was intentional.
Yeah. Perfect. But just someone keeps fucking up the scene. The assistant director guy is getting more and more pissed off. And then they're about to shoot again, another take, and then the door opens and then Wallach walks in. They're like, oh, hey, he's about to chew him out. But then it's like, oh, hey, Don Wallach. Yeah, he's about to get pissed off, but he, like, controls himself, you know. And the DP in the box, he's sweating fucking bullets. He comes out like, oh my god, he's, like, drenched. And the sound guy keeps hearing some squeaking because someone has a watch or whatever, and they're not allowed to have like electronic devices or whatever. You want to call that an electronic device?
Some sort of device. Yeah. Because they did not have electronics at the time.
Yeah. Or very, very primitive electronics.
Yeah.
It's like Nellie is under a fucking heat lamp. She's like a Jack in the Box taco or whatever. Like it's just like, you know, all the.
Well, if only she were a Jack in the Box taco. Because now you got me some cravings.
Then you would love her, right?
Yes.
And then some guy sneezes on one of the takes, and the AD just explodes. He just chews everybody's ass. He just fucking screams, and he's like, "Oh, fucking fuck your face!" Like, he just chews out everyone. And they're like, and then everyone kind of was like, "Okay, well, let's try this one last time." And so they do the scene again, but Nellie misses her mark, and the director tells her, and Nellie screams like, fuck! And then everybody just gets into a fight, and Nellie attacks the sound guy. The AD shoves the DP back into the box, and he's like, shut the fuck up. The next person who fucks up this scene, I will shit in your fucking mouth.
Yeah, it was just a complete disaster.
Yeah. So they all calm down, and they do the scene again, and it's perfect. They finally get it done. They cut, they celebrate, they're happy. The AD knocks on the DP's little door of his room, and he opens the door, and the DP falls out onto the floor. And they check his pulse, and they're like, he's dead.
Oh.
Yeah. So that guy like died of heat stroke in there or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And cut to, it's another rap party, you know, or something. It's another party, and now Jack is with this theater actress, who's played by Sam Waterston's daughter. I forgot what her name is, but yeah, she's his daughter, and Nellie is riding on top of some USC football team players, and I like how she says, "It's party time, Sparkle Cocks."
Yeah, I mean, just her wildness is just like, oh, jeez, like
she's a wild one.
Yeah.
And then her dad, played by Eric Roberts, he's talking to everyone. He's talking a lot of shit, you know. He's trying to think he's the shit, and he keeps telling everyone, "Oh, I fought a rattlesnake one time." Nellie's getting annoyed hearing that shit, and man, he tells Jack that George is suicidal again, and we see George, played by Lucas Haas, he's in the bathroom, and I guess he was trying to go with some lesbian chick or something like that, so that's why
That's a weirder
that's why he's all sad. And then the jazz dude Sydney, he's playing the party too, so he's playing trumpet there, and Lady Faye does another performance at the party, and she chooses to dance with Nellie. And earlier in the film, when she was like editing the film, she was doing the titles for it, that Lady Faye, and she asked the assistant with her, was like, "Oh, do you think she swings both ways or whatever?" Like, meaning,
Yeah, well, we already know what Lady Faye was singing earlier.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. So here, I think she's like making a move. So she chooses to dance with Nellie, and it's like she's been eyeing her ever since she saw her earlier, on the set. Yeah, I guess she's a switch hitter, like Mickey Mantle.
I mean, I'm not surprised. You can see that she's just, at least Nellie is trying to experiment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so, they dance and then they kiss after that, and everyone's like, "Ooh," yeah. And Nellie goes to the bathroom after that, and she's kind of like, "Oh my god, that was fun," or whatever. And she overhears some guys talking about sound movies coming in, and they're talking about how Nellie is a horrible actress with a horrible voice, and this pisses her off hearing this. And so she goes out, and she's like saying, "Don't be a fucking baby." That's
because you can see she starts to get emotional, but then she's kind of like, "You need to suck it up. Like take the criticism."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like absorb it, I guess.
Yeah. And then we see Irving Thalberg, played by Max Minghella, at the party. And...
Don't even get me started about that guy, but
internship.
Yeah, I don't know if I can watch that movie again.
Yeah.
And mainly for him, really. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, though it's weird seeing Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn trying to officially get into Google and go through the whole process, but
it's funny that Max Minghella has been in a movie about Google and about Facebook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's next? Yahoo, the musical, or whatever?
Just no, I don't know. I really could not stand his character in the internship.
Yeah, I know you hated it. Irving gives his card to the jazz guy Sydney, and he says, "Oh, we need more musicians, so let me know if you want to work for me." And he's kind of like, "Okay, well that might be interesting. At least I might get more pay, So he goes up to her dad, Nellie's dad, who's trying to chat up some lady, and says he was telling her about the snake story, and Nellie tells the whole party, like, "Hey, like, who wants to see my dad fight a snake?" And they're like, "Ah!" And he's like, "Wait, what the hell are you doing?" He's like, what do you mean fight a snake? And so they're like, "Yeah, let's go. I want to see your ass fight a fucking snake," or whatever. So then they all like get in their cars and they're like Model Ts, and they drive out to the desert.
Yeah. Once they get there, it's like they all start forming a circle around her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but on the way there, Nellie's like in the car with Jack's fiance.
Oh.
And she's telling him about Charlie Chaplin and Gary Cooper's penis.
Okay, thank you.
I was thinking about Gary Cooper, super duper.
Oh, jeez.
Putting on the Ritz. That fits the time period. That was like from around that time that the original, the Putting on the Ritz,
oh yeah,
came out.
Well, not the taco one.
Yeah, not the taco one.
Yeah.
Speaking of tacos.
Yeah.
I love that song.
No, it's a really good one too.
Yeah. For some reason, people find that creepy. I don't find that song creepy. But maybe...
How so?
I don't know.
Why?
I've heard people say that they find that song creepy. I don't know. Maybe just the old 20s-ness factor. 20s meets Kraftwerk factor. I don't know.
Oh.
20s meets Kraftwerk or 20s meets Falco?
I was thinking maybe more Falco
yeah.
than Kraftwerk.
Yeah. Okay. Now that we've established that. So yeah, they get into a circle with their cars kind of lighting up the scene. You know, that's like a cliche, like a standard cliche of, we've seen it in Never Back Down.
Oh, another movie I can't talk about.
We've seen it in Point Break.
At least if Kevin decides to do an episode on Never Back Down,
no.
I will not be the guest.
No, you will not be.
I will.
That would be best for everyone involved. So yeah, they're in the desert. They're surrounding the dad, and he's fucking drunk as shit. His hair is like all over the place, and there's a rattlesnake there, and he's like, "Well, if you wanna fight the snake, you gotta assume the position of a mongoose." And you're just like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah, I thought that was really weird.
Yeah, and he's like, he does this weird pose, and his teeth are like, there's something about his teeth look anime-ish there to me. I don't know if it's just because they look so huge, like they look like big anime teeth.
Weird.
So yeah, the rattlesnake is there, and it's like shaking, and then he just passes out right there in front of the snake. And Nellie gets pissed off that he didn't fight the snake, and she's like, "What the fuck? Like, I want to sing a song. Fight the fucking snake. Come on, you guys." And she's pointing out the USC guys, but they don't want to do it. Yeah. She's like, "Oh, you're a bunch of pussies. You're a 6-foot vagina." That's what she tells them.
Yeah, that's just... I mean, very derogatory, which I guess people weren't thinking about it at the time, but it's... Yeah. Well, I could get more into it, but let's continue.
Yeah. So she just grabs a snake, and she's like, "See? Look how easy that was." And then all of a sudden the snake bites her and just like latches onto her, and she's like, "Ah!" She freaks out, and then Manny like tries to get closer, and then the snake like smacks him.
Yeah.
And he's like unconscious on the floor.
Yeah.
Like,
and you can just hear the snake that like...
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this...
Yeah. And then like they play like a gramophone, like, you know, the old school record player.
Yeah.
They're playing it because someone brought one in their car. And they play the theme of the film, basically. And Jack looks at them like, he's like, you know, he has this like dramatic look, like, this is the end of an era, kind of. He's like, kind of like trembling, seeing these idiots run around. And then when we see that, then we see it in slow motion. We see them running around in slow motion, and he's just like, like, this is the end of an era. You know, like, it's like trying to be so poignant for something so ridiculous. But I love it. It's like cheesy, but it's funny, and I like it. And so he's looking at them run around in slow motion. Then all of a sudden, Jack gets hit by a car in the middle of that. But he's okay. He just
yeah, but it's... the whole thing is still a complete disaster.
Yeah. So then Lady Faye comes out. She's like, "All you guys are fucking bitches." She comes out. She has a knife on her, and she just cuts the snake off of Nellie's neck, pulls the head out and the fangs out, and then she just sucks the poison out of her neck, you know.
And to bring her back into consciousness.
She keeps sucking it until Nellie wakes up, and she's super pale. And then, you know, Nellie sees her in front of her, like, "Oh, you saved my life." And then she just starts making out with her, basically. And they become lovers at that point because she saved her life. You know?
Yeah, even though sparks flew earlier.
Yeah, but this really iced it. You know what I mean? This sealed the deal. Her saving her life from the snake. No one else would do it except for her. You know? I guess maybe she just learned this in China, maybe, or something. Like, maybe she...
Yeah, but I mean, that's a survival skill that is usually taught, though. That if you're ever...
Yeah.
That if you're ever bitten by a snake. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess she was the only one brave enough to do it, you know? But this scene...
I guess, but it shows you that she was probably the only one who really...
was paying attention.
Or that too. Or that she really, truly cared about her.
Yeah, maybe. So this scene, like I mentioned earlier in part 1, that to me, Babylon is a lot like if Pulp Fiction was in the 20s. You know what I'm saying? Kind of has a similar vibe, a similar structure, just with, it was an older time period, older technology and stuff. Mm-hmm. But it takes, both take place in LA. And this scene here reminds me of the Uma Thurman heroin overdose scene in Pulp Fiction.
You can tell that it was definitely taken from that. And it did remind me a lot from it, because when Nellie comes back into consciousness after Ladyface sucked the venom out of her, it was like just like that sudden shock, like when Mia first wakes up after she overdosed.
Yeah, after she gets that stab by Travolta and she pops up. It's the same sort of thing, and how pale they both are at that point too. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, oh my god, what the fuck? This is like that scene for me. So there you go. Once again, this is the Pulp Fiction of the 20s. So after this great scene, we hear Singing in the Rain, and it's all these stars from that era. They're all dressed in these pink vinyl raincoats and this pink vinyl hat, which I think is pretty cool, actually. I like the outfits. And, so I guess that's where this song originated from. Like, obviously the movie Singing in the Rain, we know that, but that came out later. Yeah. That came out when Manny sees it at the very end of the movie, you know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. But this song or whatever, I guess it was from this short, like, music video that they did back in 28 or 29 or whatever. Mm-hmm. All these stars, they brought all these stars together to do this random Singing in the Rain, like, music video wearing these pink outfits.
They're raincoats and rain hats.
Yeah, and so we see Jack going there. He's like, I don't want to do this crap, He's like, what the hell? But then Irving's like, come on, there's Charlie Chaplin, there's Buster Keaton. Like, they're saying there's all these stars there. Come on, like, it would be great to have you. So he reluctantly goes into it. And he looks around and he sees his ex-wife there, Olga, and she sees him and she mouths like to him like when she sees him, and he's like,
well, I probably would have done the same.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm surprised, his ex-wives even tolerated him for as long as they did.
Yeah, exactly. So, and so Manny is there on the set too, and he's looking at what's going on, but then he also sees that, so there's a jazz band playing on the side too of this. Mm-hmm. They're playing the music for this Singing in the Rain thing. Yeah. And he's kind of looking over and is like, oh, okay. Like, and then when they're done with the take, he's like at the snack area, he's getting coffee, and Sydney goes and he gets coffee too, and Manny sees him and he's like, well, what do you think of this? And Sydney is like kind of shocked. He's kind of like you're asking me what I think? And he's like, yeah. He's like, what do you think of this? And he's like, what I think, huh? He's like, I think you have the cameras in the wrong direction. That's what he tells him. He just kind of walks away. And then Manny's like, like, and he goes back to playing and he sees, and he's like, oh yeah, like seeing these guys is more dynamic than seeing this crowd or whatever. Yeah. So he's like, so he gets like an idea, and he sees, he can see the talent of the band, which has a few black players, and he thinks, like, let's make some like music shorts with these guys or whatever. And we cut to Sydney, and he's doing this like avant-garde jazz performance, and it's like they're doing jazz, fusion, crazy stuff, and there's like African, it's like kind of Picasso-esque, environment that they built on the set, and it looks really cool. you know, and they finish the take, and it's like, and there's like African dancers there, and then we cut and we see Irving. He shakes Manny's hand, and he's like, "Good idea," or whatever. He gives him like props for coming up with this music video for Sydney. And it's like, okay, that was a success. So like Manny is like on his way. You know, he wants to be, you know, a filmmaker and executive. He wants to be a big part of the movie industry. You know, and this is kind of like his first step. You know, he was Jack's assistant before, and now he's doing stuff. He's actually like producing stuff. You know what I mean? So he's in the right direction. So after that, he goes outside to smoke a cigarette, and we see some blonde girl walk by, and she like smiles at him. You know, she like checks him out, quote unquote, and you know, and he's like, okay, like you know, he's down with that. And then we see this guy from Red Hot Chili Peppers again walks up to him.
Oh, jeez.
Flea, not Kiddes, not Frusciante, not the guy who looks like Will Ferrell.
Oh my gosh.
We see Flea, the bassist. He walks up to Manny, and he asks him if the Sydney Palmer shorts were his idea. You know, the jazz shorts, and he's like, well, yeah. And so Manny's like, yeah. He's like, well, how would you like to be sound chief at Kinescope, which is his company? And he tells them, hey, like, the audience is changing, times are changing. We need Spanish language pictures. We need this. We need that. And Manny's like, oh, that sounds kind of good. But then he tells them like, oh, we need to do something about Nellie Leroy. He's like, what? Like, he's like, you know her, right? Like, he's like, yeah, we need to change her image or whatever. Like, you know, this isn't the silent era anymore, you know, and people are tired of her, you know, Jersey girl shtick or whatever.
Yeah, like they think like she's kind of like she's pretty obscene, right?
Yeah.
That's yeah.
For the new times, you know.
Yeah.
So we cut to Manny is presenting to these studio heads like the new plan, new direction for Nellie. He has like charts and stuff. He has like graphs kind of put up for her.
Yeah.
And then we see Manny on set, and they're doing like a Marie Antoinette type of film. You know, we did the Sophia version not that long ago, but they're doing like a, you know,
what?
Silent era or right after the silent era version of Marie Antoinette. And I like this montage because like you could hear like a sped up version of the jazzy, the jazz theme, you know. Or what is it? Yeah, I like that part. And he's kind of running around, but you can tell he really likes what he's doing. He's like in the zone on the set. You know, he's having a good time. He's calling shots. You know, he's doing this, and Jack calls him. Actually, he's like, "Oh, like I heard you got a new job, man." He's like, "Good luck," you know. Brad, you know, Jack calls him, and he's like, "Good luck, you deserve it." And he's like, "Well, thanks, Jack." And then someone calls him Manuel on the set, but then he's like, "Oh, call me Manny."
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know because it seems like he was trying to like, you know, be less Hispanic by saying that or something.
I think he's just trying to fit in because he can already sense that, like he's being treated as an inferior.
Yeah. Yeah. So like that's why someone calls him Manuel, and he's like, call him man. And then we see Sydney, the jazz guy. He gets a new big house and a nice car from Mr. Wallach. And he's like, damn, he's like living the dream basically. And so the studio doesn't like that Nellie is with Faye Zhu. You know,
like it's just scandalous.
Yeah, their lesbian relationship is too scandalous, and it won't help them with the Hearst crowd because that's where Hollywood is starting to get a lot of money from. They're getting a lot of money from these like conservative donors and conservative philanthropists and stuff like that. And you know, but they want to see, you know, things that are conservative. You know what I mean? So we see Manny, he basically confronts Fei Zhu, like in some dark, like some dark studio or something, and he tells her to stay away from Nellie. Like he basically like bans her from seeing her. And like there's this like touch of green lighting in that studio too when he's telling her that, and it's cool. It's like almost Wong Kar-wai-ish, you know, the little green
I could kind of sense that in the lighting.
Yeah. Or it's Varsity Blues-ish.
Well, I mean, believe it or not, I haven't really sat down to watch Varsity Blues, so...
Oh, you didn't see it when me and Byron were watching it the other time?
I think I just walked by, but I didn't really sit down and watch
it. It's pretty damn funny.
Okay, I guess, but I don't know.
I mean, you know, it's like American Pie with football. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know if I could really sit down and watch it.
No, but I'm joking. But the reason I mentioned it was or Varsity Blues is for some reason there's a random ass shot in Varsity Blues where he's at like a 7-Eleven and it looks like straight up Wong Kar-wai shot. You know what I mean? Like it's just James Van Der Beek. He's like running into 7-Eleven, but it has this Wong Kar-wai lighting for some reason.
It's very ironic for that type of.
Yeah, it was like all of a sudden they wanted to be artsy for a second.
Weird.
So yeah. So that's pretty sad that Manny, you know, bans their relationship basically. And then Irving.
But that just shows you that he ultimately cared what the industry was going for rather than what made her happy. Really.
Yeah, he was trying to save her career, you know, but he was like trying to propel his own career too, you know.
Well, yeah, but that shows you that in a way he was being selfish.
Yeah, exactly. So then Irving gets a note during a meeting and calls Jack, and he calls Jack at home. Jack is at home with his wife, doing scenes, you know, like working on the scene, and he gets the phone and he hears that it's Irving, and he said, "Hey, Jack," it's like George shot and killed himself.
Oof.
He's like, "I'm sorry," or whatever, and then he kind of hangs up, and he walks out, kind of all, you know, he's shook, you know, and his wife sees him like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And he doesn't really say anything, and he said he was the first one who said I had talent. And she's like, who? Like, what? And he kind of just lashes out at her at that point. He's like, it's not a low art. He's like, what I do means something to millions of people. He's like, you, because she does theater, you know? Yeah. So he's like, 10,000 people see it, it's a hit. He's like, if 10,000 people see what I do, it's a flop. It's a fucking flop. Like he tells her that. And she's just like, what are you talking about? Like it's pretty good acting here. Like her teariness, you know, yet like her, you can see her eyes are watery, but she's not full on crying. You know what I mean? Like she's just like really surprised by what he's saying. You know. But yeah, he really lashes out at her. And she doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's kind of like she just doesn't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
I mean, even though he's yelling at her.
Yeah, exactly. And so the studio and Jack are watching his new movie with sound. And they're telling him it's good, but he has his doubts. He's like, I don't know if this is good. And then... So they go to this party or whatever, like with all these investors and stuff. And Nellie is there, and she's presented by Jean Smart, the Jean Smart character, and by Manny to a group of investors at the party. And she's trying to hide her accent, like her Jersey girl accent, because it's all these like old conservative white people, and you know, they eat hors d'oeuvres and stuff like that, and other weird foods and stuff like that at the party.
Yeah, well, you can see that it's just all a very elitist crowd.
Yeah, and Sydney is there too, and it's funny because he walks in through the door and he looks around and he's like, "All right," he just sees all these white people. And he's like, "Okay, I just have to get through this," you know, and. When he sits down, it's one of the people talking to him is Taylor Nichols from Whit Stillman's films. He's the nerdy guy from Whit Stallman's films, you know, the guy with the glasses.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. I love that guy.
I think he's really good, actually.
Yeah, he's great. He's done over 100 films.
That's a way more extensive career than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, and it all started with Metropolitan. That was his first shit, you know. So you gotta give it up to Whit Stillman.
Yeah, even though I already told you what I really think of his movies, I mean, into a similar way as what I think of some of Damien Chazelle's content, but which we can get into more later. And if you guys are really curious, I'm not going to get into details here, but you can always reach out and maybe I'll make a statement on it sometime.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about it eventually. But yeah, like, you can see Taylor Nichols is, like, picking his brain here. Like, all the people around him are, like, picking his brain because it's like, oh, we get to talk to a black person. Let's see how they, you know, how they see the world, you know. And yeah, you can see that there, at least Taylor Nichols, he's like this white liberal dude trying to, like, you know, be friendly, but, you know, Sydney is, like, weirded out by it, you know. And
which I don't blame him for being weirded out by it.
Yeah. And then we see Manny now has this white blonde girlfriend, and now and someone asks him, like, oh, what part of Mexico are you from? And he says, I'm from Madrid, Spain. That's what he says. Like, it's like he's trying to seem more elevated, right? He's trying to be more European, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is trying to fit in.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just interesting how Chazelle put that in, you know. You know, like hiding his background and stuff like that. Here's Tom again, showing his butthole.
Yeah, okay. Let's censor that as much as we can. As much as he permits it, really. Okay, he's walking away.
Butthole surfers.
Thank you.
Sorry. Anyway, so yeah, Manny, he's kind of trying to be snobby now. And Jack is at the party with his wife, and they're all smiles. And he says they're working on their marriage, you know, after that fight that they had.
Oh, jeez.
You know, where, you know, his best friend basically killed himself, you know, so I guess you can't be too hard on him.
No.
And Nellie is complaining to Manny in the other room, and he tells her to put up with it for now, you know, and she's like, fine, and he's like, what's your name? And she's like, Nellie Leroy, and he's like, no, in French. And she's like, that is French, or whatever, and they both kind of laugh. And you can tell that they improvise that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But he did a good job. I think he did a good job with a lot of improvisation.
Yeah, of course.
And the fact that he did a lot of it in Spanish, too, I think was perfect.
Well, you know? Yeah, it definitely shows.
Just, you know, you really, you know, because in other movies, at least for maybe in other time, like if this was in the 90s, this guy wouldn't even be Mexican. Like, he'd probably be played by, like, Antonio Banderas or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, you know...
And in that case, he is Spanish.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, he wouldn't have that same sort of essence, you know what I mean? Of course not. Like, you know, I love Antonio Banderas. He's a great actor, but, you know, if I want someone who can improvise as a Mexican, you need a Mexican to do that.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I mean?
Of course.
Because only they would really get it, you know? And they keep asking Jack how Europe was and how he's holding up, and Jack feels like something is wrong. He's like, I guess my new movie must be shit. Because
what did that have to do with
well, just because everyone's like checking in on him, and then he just ends up, he's like, will someone kindly tell me what the fuck is going on? Just kind of funny. And then we see Jean Smart there still with Nellie, and her hat is funny. It looks like she's the new pope or something like that. And they ask Nellie to tell a joke, and she kind of doesn't want to, but then she's like, okay, like, I'll tell you a joke. And she tells them the joke about the rabbit and the bear. And I guess how the bear wipes his ass with the rabbit or whatever. So at that point, she just kind of breaks down and attacks the crowd, like, you know, she points fingers at them. She eats the food with her hands, and
yeah, like she describes everything like she's just like she's just some feral person.
Yeah, she just goes wild. And yeah. She fucks up her dress, and she tells them that she's
like her makeup is ruined. Well, hair and makeup, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm just gonna go home and stick some coke up my pussy. That's what she says. And she storms out.
But
then
on her way out,
yeah,
she feels herself regurgitating.
Yeah.
If I pronounce that
regurgitating.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I had a feeling I didn't pronounce that correctly. Which, by the way, if most of you can't tell, English is not my first language, so I still occasionally struggle with some words.
Yeah, you almost got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we hear like her stomach like rumble a bit, and she's like, "Oh shit!" And then she feels that she has to throw up. So
she runs back inside the house,
and she throws up all over the floor. Yeah. Big time. Yeah. And then one of the rich guys comes up to her like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
It's like, you just threw up all over my carpet, and she just projectile vomits towards his face.
And into his mouth. And, yeah. It's gross. Disgusting. Once again, probably why people hated it. And so much for trying to clean up her image. Yeah, and Manny just sees this and he's just like, "Oh my god."
And disbelief.
Yeah, and then she does this like bow to the crowd and then leaves the house after that. And Manny's very disappointed. I feel like the bowing to the crowd kind of overdid it in a way. It was like kind of cheesy when she did that, but I guess I understand. Yeah, so that basically ruined her comeback that she was planning on having. And Jack goes to a theater, you know, he wants to see the reaction that his movie is getting. And he kind of like leans in on the side with his like mustache and his like dark hair. He looks totally different than how he usually looks, honestly. He walks in and he hears his dialogue and he's like with the actress in the scene and he's like, "I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you." Like and then the crowd, he can hear the crowd start to laugh. They're like, "I love you, I love you." And he's like, he listens and he's like, you can see his heart like crack when he hears that. You know what I mean? He's like, "Fuck." He's like, "I suck." You know what I mean? Like, people making fun of me. Like, it's pretty sad, actually.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, he feels like shit. Like, I've never seen Brad Pitt look so pathetic in anything. You know what I mean? Like, he usually always looks cool and he's the man. You know what I'm saying? This is the kind of the first time I've ever seen him look that sad and pathetic. You know what I mean?
In the movie,
yeah. Yeah, I've never seen him like that. And I think that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to take this cool, iconic actor and, you know, make him not look that way. You know?
Yeah.
And so the next scene is Jack. He's he's being interviewed by Gene Smart's character, and he has sunglasses, and I like his blue cardigan that he has. Huh. And I like the jump cuts here. This is very Godard-ish. You know, like the jump cuts of the interview. They make it seem like a real interview, you know, with these jump cuts. And so Jack is interviewed by her. And she asks him like if he'll, you know, want to do theater to try to learn how to do sound film, you know, because he was used to doing silent film. And he says, "No, I will master the talking film on film." That's what he tells her. And she asks him, "Do you miss the silence?" And he says, "No, you shouldn't stand in the way of progress." Huh. And she's like, "Oh, thank you, Jack. You're still the kid I met 20 years ago." Huh. That's what she tells him. And Sydney is doing another film, and Manny is like overseeing it. And some guy tells him that the band looks racially mixed or whatever, and I guess that will hurt the South. It would like hurt sales in the South of the film.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. So, and he's saying that Wallach might pull the plug on the film because of that or whatever. So he's like, oh, do something about it. Here's some shoe polish or something like that.
Yeah. Well, this is where the racism comes into play, which
yeah,
was completely unnecessary for them to do that.
Well, I mean, I think they wanted to be realistic.
I know that they're being realistic and they're trying to show what happened at the time, but it's, and hopefully that's what they're trying to convey to show what's still going on nowadays.
Yeah. So like we see Manny give Sydney that shoe polish or something, and he tells him, and Sydney's like, "What's this for?" And he's like, "Oh, put it on your face to look darker." And Sydney thinks it's ridiculous. Like he's like, "Oh, I'm already black. Like what the hell?"
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
He's saying like, "Yeah, well, the lighting is making you look whiter or whatever," and he's like, "So we need this. We need you to put this on to look black." And he like Sydney, he does think it's ridiculous, and he kind of doesn't know what to make of it. But then Manny tells him like, "Hey, like you're an actor now, Sydney. Actors change their appearances for roles. It's normal." And he's like, he's like, okay. So Manny, I guess, kind of convinces him to do it. He kind of guilts him into it because he says, "Oh, like if you don't do this, no one will get paid." And he's kind of like, "Shut up." He's kind of like, he feels like he's forced into it at that point, So Sydney does put on the makeup, and and then Jack goes to the studio trying to find Irving around, but he's not there. But then he sees the magazine. He sees the interview that he did with Jean Smart, Eleanor St. John.
Yeah.
And then so these two scenes are like juxtaposed, and then we see Sydney. He's playing with the band, and he has the black face. Like he put on the makeup, and even when he's playing, it just feels like his dignity was stripped away.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean? You can feel it from him, and he's conveying it. Like you're saying, I think people find this controversial, just the fact that they have this segment in it, but I think it's realistic, and I think it's worth showing it.
Well, I mean, it's trying to show you that,
how it was,
it was, and how in a way it's still going on.
And and it's like he walks away from the money after that. Like, I like that. I like that he was just like, I'm not gonna just do this for the money. He's like, I don't care.
No, he made the right decision.
Yeah, he walks away from it. Manny is told by a production assistant that they can't find Nellie, that she's gone, and he's like, okay, well, I don't know, like, I don't know where she's at, know. And then we see Sydney walk out of the set, and the gate security guy sees him, and that guy is also black too. The security guy, he sees him, and he gives him like his lanyard that he has or whatever. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna need that to come back." And he tells him, "I'm not coming back," and then just cuts like right there. I love how quickly it cuts right there. Like it doesn't let it, because if it didn't cut any sooner, it would have been weird. So the fact that it cuts right there is perfect.
That was good.
Yeah. And then Jack is confronting Eleanor about the article. Like he goes to her office, and she knows that he's really upset that his movie tanked, and that's what he's really pissed off. He's not pissed off about her article per se, but then she tells him like, "Oh, like your career's over," like that's what she tells him point blank, and he's like, "Fuck," like, but she tells him that, "Oh, but don't worry, like because you were a movie star, you'll live forever." Mm-hmm. She says, "You shouldn't feel bad." He's like, and she says, "There'll be 100 more Jack Conrads. And your time today is through, but you'll spend eternity with angels and ghosts." And, she basically tells him that he at least did something that'll live on. You know what I mean? Like his prime is over. You know what I mean? But at least he's done some work that will live on. And she says some great shit here, which I encourage you to watch it if you haven't seen it, watch it, and if you've seen it already, watch it again. And
if you haven't seen it, you just got a bunch of spoilers already.
yeah. But yeah, you should really watch. And this scene, like the things she says in this are great. I love what she says, what she tells him, and then after she's done telling him all this, he walks up. He just walks up and walks away from her, and like right when he reaches the door, he mumbles. He's like, "Thank you for that," and he walks out. he just tells her that like he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to give her all the credit, but he wants to at least, acknowledge her for saying that. Like she didn't have to point out how cool it is that he's done all this stuff, but the fact that she did point it out to him, it made him feel better. He's like, yeah, I might be done, but at least I did something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, my run might be over, but at least I got to do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's more than I could say about most people, And that's pretty much where the second act ends. Mm-hmm. And then, we have a amazing third act after that. But we'll get into that next time on part 3 of Babylon Briterion Bollection podcast. We'll see you next time on part 3.
Alright, we'll see you next time. Peace. Bye.